So this is a topic a lot of people have talked about. We have heard at some point in our lives. It's just a really, really common topic, especially in these recent years. And it's called pretty privilege. There's so many people that make so many videos about it, and I would recommend listening to them because a lot of them are really good, intriguing topics. And also, I just wanted to jump on the train, because why not? Okay, why not? So what is pretty privilege? Now, I could go give you a definition, but you may not understand it, and I don't really understand it myself. If you don't really know what pretty privilege is basically where there's this belief in the world or in society that people who are conventionally or societally attractive get more opportunities. That may be with a relationship, that may be with being, in a professional setting, that might be financially, they may get free drinks, they may get a promotion just because of the way they look, they may get opportunities. And it's real, so I debunk, it's a real thing, okay? And it affects us in society because a lot of people feel, especially if they're not socially beautiful, that they really can't get ahead or get really anywhere in life. I say socially, I mean societally. What? Societally beautiful, they can't really get ahead in life. And also, it makes a lot of, especially women, feel disgusted with themselves. They have body image issues, just a whole bunch of mental loada. So let's get into it. And basically, I'm just going to speak about kind of a little bit about it, but also my perspective on it. And like, what can you do to like not want to jump off a bridge, because of this topic, okay? So first, we're going to get a little bit into the history about beauty and pretty privilege. So privilege, we've heard it in so many things, like economically, with the class, with race, whatever. So privilege is not a new term. It's been around since ancient times. Pretty privilege especially, like in ancient Egypt. I wrote this down, I'm so sorry. So in ancient Egypt, a lot of beauty standards were to have high cheekbones, slender necks, and a small waist. In Greece, the women were supposed to be slim and curvy, and the men are seen as muscular, athletic. In China, they have like almond eyes and pale skin. That was perceived to be as beautiful. So what do we hear in common that we have today? Being slim, being pale skin, and be a slim and curvy kind of like Coke bottle hourglass look is a pretty common thing with a lot of these cultures that I was reading, and it's even in Western culture even today. So beauty standards have been around societally for a long time. So I want to tell you, if you think you're being stupid and being pathetic because you are comparing yourself to pretty privilege, don't, because it's so ingrained in our brains that I don't know how you wouldn't be able to compare yourself. Basically, it's not your fault because it's been there since the beginning of time. So what do you expect? So I want to give you my one thing about me. I'm always gonna put story time in there, girl. So one thing about Miss Khadijah, if you didn't know, my name's Khadijah. I really wanted to give my little intake and like my experience with pretty privilege and kind of like what I experienced with it. So we're gonna go to my childhood. So as a child, I was a pretty cute little child. I don't know, that sounded weird, but I was a really cute, I was a pretty child. But it started to change when I started to gain weight, and I really started to gain weight heavily when I was in second grade, so 7, 8 years old. And oh, girl, I was not looking good. I was really no, I was not cute. And a lot of insecurities and negative body image things started to happen because I would binge eat a lot. And also I was going through a lot at home. So, because I kind of grew up in a household that wasn't the greatest. So, kind of my way of dealing with my trauma was eating and binge eating a lot. So, and then I grew up in the time where, I'm 20, I was born in 03, so I'm a Gen Z. And, I grew up in a time where social media really started to become a thing. I don't think it was like this big now, but like I grew up with Snapchat, Instagram, Musically. I grew up in that little era, like as a kid. So I saw all these girls look a certain way, and I really thought to myself, oh my gosh, I look like shit and I look like terrible. And I just did not really take care of myself really, and I didn't really look like anything. And also I was a bigger woman, and I'ma just be honest with you, bigger women, yes, the beauty standards like has changed a bit and a lot more bodies are being accepted, but we have a long way to go, especially on TikTok, because TikTok, they're not very nice with bigger women. So, me also being, and I'll talk about kind of my later life things, but being a bigger girl is not societally seen as beautiful. So that's already like a thing. So a lot of guys would not come up to me. No one would really talk to me. I may have had like a couple of guys that had a crush on me, but I wasn't like, oh my gosh, she just bad and oh, I want her. Like that was never the case. That was never the case, sweetie. That really made me feel very insecure in myself, and I tried different things like fast diets, whatever, to just make me look good. Yeah, they didn't really work very well, or they didn't really work for long. So we kind of go into high school, and I would say my 10th grade, when I turned 16, that's when I kind of started to glow up. So I guess I'll give you some pictures of like how I looked. I started to get like really, my body started to shape. Like I had this butt and this curve. Like my body started to, I will say my body started to become a little more societally accepted, because even though I still had stomach, like my stomach, like the way I was proportioned pretty well, got it from my mama. So guys started to be more attracted to me. I will say, like, I guess I had pretty privilege for being a thicker woman, I guess, if that makes sense, because thicker women tend to not have pretty privilege. Like it's like you may look fine, but like just because you're big, like people will already cancel you out. And I felt like I had to start keeping up an appearance. So I started at the age of 16, 17. I'm wearing all this shit like a 25-year-old would wear. So now, fast forward to now, I still wear like a lot of seductive stuff, I ain't gonna lie, but I do it because I like to do it for myself. So yes, I've had times where guys bought my drinks. I've had guys that wanted to pay for my hotel or even asked me to travel with them, and they would pay for everything. All in all, what I'm saying is there are times I experience pretty privilege, like not at all. Like I had beautiful friends and people would talk to them and they wouldn't even talk to me because they're, they looked more like, they might have been a different race, or they were just lighter skinned and they had like a better body, or they weren't thicker. So all in all, I'm not saying I've experienced pretty privilege like all the time. I only experience it in certain times and areas. Like some people, they experience it every day. I don't experience it every day. Or I don't experience it always to the extent like a lot of other people experience. And also it really depends on where I'm at. Like for example, I go to a majority white college. No one is knocking on my door. First of all, because we already know. Secondly, people like that tend to not like overweight women. And so it's kind of like I used to go to parties and not many guys hit on me, or really at all. And I mean, I'm not saying I wanted to be hit on and be catcalled, because I've been catcalled before and I've been called some really disgusting things. But you see, like it depended on the setting and it depended on the time. It just depended on a lot of things for me. So that's why I'm saying I have pretty privilege too. I think I have a entry level pretty privilege for a thicker woman. So all in all, I understand your struggle and I understand how you feel. So that's kind of my little story. And yeah, I know it's all over the place. I just be all over the place. Now, I'm gonna give you a little bit about like why pretty privilege is a thing, and like how like it really does affect us, and kind of like how I feel about it. So pretty privilege is really more of a psychological thing. In a lot of videos I've seen, you heard, is the halo effect. Is people tend to be attracted to people that, people there that are seen as more conventionally or more societally attractive. People trust more. You know, I remember I had this guy in high school that I really liked, barely talked to him, barely even knew him. But because he was attractive, I thought he was like, oh, I'm like, oh, he's such a hard worker. Oh, he's this, oh, that. But if somebody was a little more like, not, I'm so sorry. Like more like not as societally attractive, I'm like, like I would find something to, all these emails, I would find something to complain about. So when we see people with good looks, we tend to make them seem, you know, we tend to see them as somebody that has good qualities. We've all had some type of crush and we really thought this person was the best person ever. Even if you obviously see they had red flags and they look, you know, they may look great, but their personality sucks, but we look past that because they're attractive. And pretty privilege is one of those things, like psychologically, like we can't help it. It's our brain. Like I know if I see a pretty girl or, you know, a beautiful girl, I'll be like, oh my gosh, she's so pretty. Like I notice it. Like, or a handsome man, I'm like, oh yeah, like I noticed that. Like you notice it and you kind of just stop and stare, but it's not like you're trying to be weird. It just happens because of your brain and what you were trained. So in a way, it kind of just psychologically happens. Like there's not too much you can do because it just happens, you know? But also pretty privilege does give people a lot of opportunities. Like I think if a guy, because it's weird to me, a guy tends to, girls tend to date guys that look not as good as them. And I've noticed that. Like the girl will be the most beautiful thing ever. And then a guy would kind of be mid. But when they are dating the girl, they get some type of exchange. Like the pretty girl, they get, you know, you get status because they're like, oh, you know, you're dating that hot baddie, you know, I hear guys be like, oh, you're dating that hot girl, you know, that, you know, you get something from it. So a lot of the reason I think pretty privilege exists because there's an exchange, there's a profit out of it. And one thing I'll talk about is beauty is a profit. Beauty is billion-dollar company. If you get, like, for example, you get someone that works at that's a CEO and they're really, really attractive. They're probably more likely going to pull more customers in than someone that's not as societally attractive because people that are attractive, they trust more. So it actually makes money. If you see somebody that models for, you know, Fashion Nova and they're attractive, you're like, oh, I want to see how that looks on me so I can look like her. Because to be honest, let's just see. Like, I'm gonna be straight up honest. Like, and I'm not like trying to down myself or anything, but just let's be honest. Let's say I put this girl wearing this little thing and then it's me wearing it. You're probably more likely going to get to the girl right there. You know, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with me, but I'm not societally attractive. So you're more likely going to trust that girl that has that, you know? And that's just, you know, no hate to me. I'm just saying, like, it's the truth. Like, you're more likely going to buy that. That's why people choose certain models. That's why they choose certain people to rep their brand so they can get more money. It's all about money. I think pretty privilege is simply just getting something out of it. I think pretty privilege, it's more of something we can't do too much about because it's so ingrained in our brains. I think it's something each generation, piece by piece, has more ethical beauty standards. That's what I mean, like beauty standards, because I'll just be honest, like, there is people in your life that you think is the most beautiful person. And then there's people in your life you're like, you know, you have a great personality, you know. It's not, you know, it's not me saying like pretty privilege is correct because I think there's a lot of things that it does for women, especially in girls. Like it makes us feel, you know, it makes us have a lot of body image issues and a lot of mental health issues. So I'm not saying it's correct, but I think being beautiful is not an issue. It's just the way society handles it because it's sad that people that do work hard, you know, may not get the opportunity because they're just not as beautiful. And sometimes it's genetic, like you can't do anything about it. Like if you're born genetically a certain way, what can you do? If you're pretty or not, I'm just saying like, what can you really do with that? You know, and it's sad, and it's kind of one of those things that you have to learn how to cope with what you got. I think in the end of the day is a profit thing. I think it makes money, because if it wasn't making money or making some type of status, and I think prettier people tend to be rich because, you know, over in history, class, you know, society, beauty was really connected to the economic level as well too. So I think prettiness and this beauty privilege thing, I really think is just for the money. It's a brand, like they make money off of it. Like, it's kind of like capitalism, you know, because the way to sell something is you got to tell people they suck. So if you're like, oh, I've been told this a million times, but they're like, you know, do you go to the gym? You know, basically saying you're fat, let's help you, you know, and I'm just like, okay. So that's what I'm saying. Like, they push this thing like, oh, you don't look like this. You need this outfit so you can look like me. They kind of give you that false impression. So it's kind of that type of thing. So that's why I see beauty privilege as, I think it's just, you get something for your buck. Like, even if it's just locally, you know, locally beautiful, locally privileged, you know, if you do date that girl or date that guy, you know, people will notice you more. You will have some type of status. But if you date somebody that just has a great personality, people are like, you know, like, oh, they're cool together, but they don't really give a fuck. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I'm saying. Like, it brings something to the table. So that's kind of how I feel about pretty privilege. So now we're going to talk about the reason that it affects you and why you feel the way you feel. So we did talk about already that obviously it causes issues, but like things that you're doing that could possibly be the reason why it affects you so much. You're on social media too much. I understand the TikTok girls. I understand you want to look like the TikTok girls, the Instagram girls, whatever. But if that's all you see on your feed, obviously you're going to have some type of impression because that's all you see. That's all you see. You see nothing else. So obviously social media always is already a way, it makes you feel very negative because you see people doing what you want to do in life and you see people getting married, whatever the case may be. And then when you see these people right here, you're like, oh, I should look like her. Oh, I need to dress like her. Oh my gosh. Like, yeah, you know, like you're kind of putting yourself in that position because you are doing social media. Like you're looking at it. So, I mean, obviously you're going to think some things. If society wasn't centered around men, I don't think people would care about beauty as much. People would probably look a fucking hot mess. Like, or they just will walk out and just don't give a fuck. But that's the reason. They just wouldn't care. And the reason is because you center yourself to please somebody. Because a lot of the reason why you want to look that way is because you're just trying to get an opportunity. It's an exchange. Once again, you're just doing it because you want some type of benefit from it. And a lot of the reason is people are trying to cater to a man of some sort or cater to somebody. So they change themselves or they try to look a certain way because of that. So if you're not securing yourself, obviously you're going to fall for that pretty hard. Simply, society just sucks. And what I mean by this is like societally, like there's always a role that you're gonna fit, and there's a role you may fit all of them, you may fit none of them, I don't know. But society sucks and you're just in it, and there's not much you can do about trying to change. You know, I believe change is possible, and I believe change is a great thing, but it's one of those things where you can't try to change the whole world if you can't even change yourself, you know? I think when change happens, you change one thing at a time. And I think Gen Z is like one of the first generations to actually like acknowledge stuff like this. Maybe millennials, but Gen Z for sure. And I think over time, it may start to become a more talked about topic and a lot of people start to change their ways. But I think that would be a few generations from now. And I think that's good that there's conversations starting to happen about it. But I think it's one of those things that you just have, I mean, you're just in society, you live here, like, you know, it's kind of like, you know, what can you do type thing. So just be okay. Sometimes it's like, what, you can't always fight. Sometimes you just have to learn how to work with it and use what you got. You're trying to be something that you'll never be. I'm not saying you can't be a part of pretty privilege if you tried, but I'm saying that you try to be exactly like some people are, or you may try to do something to change your look, but you're not doing it for yourself. You're doing it to be something else that let's just say I was trying to be some random girl. This girl is a white woman, and this girl has blonde hair. I don't know, but obviously I could make myself use the wig and get a blonde hair, but I can't make myself white. Literally, like, I could skin bleach, which is I don't recommend, but I'm saying, like, as you can see, you're trying to fit something that isn't even for you. So you're kind of forcing yourself to do something that wasn't meant for you in the first place. So I feel like that's another reason why it can affect you. And kind of going back, you want to be like everyone else but yourself. And I know it's a cliche answer, but I'm saying, like, you can change. Like, I think change is a great thing. You can change yourself, but you can't be like everyone else. But also, pretty privilege has its dark side and its downside. And I can explain this, and also with other people I've, watched and seen, is that, pretty people tend to have more pressure. Like, they have to look a certain way or do a certain thing. And at least with my body, I can relate to that, because if I didn't dress a certain way, or if I didn't act a certain way, or if I didn't have, my cleavage is out, but if I didn't have all that stuff, I might have not got the same opportunities, or if I did get the same opportunities, I have to keep it that way. Another thing is, a lot of people that typically have pretty privilege are lusted after more than are loved. Now, from, it may look like, oh my gosh, like, they get all the guys, and that might be true, but a lot of these guys are looking at other women. A lot of these guys want this girl for her looks. They don't want her for really anything else. They may treat her a little bit better, but they throw her away like it's nothing. That's what I'm saying. You see all these celebrities and these influencers. Why are all of them getting divorces? Why are they all single? You just don't see too many people, especially in that world, having a really good, not rocky, committed relationship, because they're obviously looking at them because of the way they look. They're not looking at them for who they are, So think about that. Privilege doesn't really last. And the reason I say this is because age. Part of pretty privilege is being a younger person, because another privilege is age. Like, it's ageism. Like, that's another thing. And these girls now that you see, we're all gonna get old. So I'm like, they're not gonna be as the pretty girls now because they get older. And it's not because, like, you can get surgery and stuff, but you can't fight age. Like, even if you do get surgery, like, your age will show at some point, at some time. So that's another downside, is like, it's short term. I think pretty privilege could last maybe until in your 40s, societally. Shoot, for girls, 25, it's the cutoff. But because of your age, that's another discrimination. So let me tell you how you have an advantage, even if you're, this is more for people who don't have like pretty privilege like other people. And if you do, you can still watch, because I need that, I need that little subscriber count, like, view, so you can look at it if you want. But and also things to help you deal with this crazy society. This may sound harsh, but this is just me being honest, and I'm doing it out of love. When people are not paying attention to you, you can do whatever you want. So, like, for example, no one really pays attention to me, and I'm just being honest. Like, societally, no one, I'm not societally in the beauty standards. So I'm like, who is paying attention? But I'm able to create YouTube videos. I'm not saying you can't do a pretty privilege, but people are more likely to look at you in a more closer eye, I feel like, than if you don't look societally beautiful. People might judge and people may say stuff, but it's like, you know, you already think I'm ugly. So it's like, girl, like, you know, I feel like you have more freedom because no one cares. You know, they're not looking at you and they're not like, oh my gosh, like, you know, but I feel like, and an example I like to give is like, for example, me and a societally pretty privileged girl gets my hair colored. You know, I might get my hair colored. People may be like, oh, you know, that was cool. Or, oh, that was cute. Or, oh, you know, whatever. Or that was ugly. I don't know. But for the, you know, pretty privileged girl, it really could be societally both ends. Like some people be like, oh my gosh, you're drop dead gorgeous, wow, looks so good. Or people like, that was the ugliest thing ever, why would you do that, you look, you know, like them changing their hair could push them off, you know what I'm saying? Like they have a very, you know, tight look. People look at them with a closer look. And then it's crazy that people tend to pay attention when you start doing something in life. So think about that. And also, you don't know when people are paying attention. This one might seem a little bit harsh too. You can always change your appearance. I'm one of those people, if you complain about it and know you can do something about it, do it. But before you think I'm crazy, listen to what I gotta say after the third point. But yeah, 9 out of 10 times, you could probably fix it. If you want to lose weight, like me, I don't like my weight. So, you know, I'm on a weight loss journey. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you don't like something, change it. Like, you can change. Like, no one is stopping you from changing. You're stopping yourself because you feel stuck. And I'm like, well, if you want to look like that, you know, if you think it will benefit you, then hey, change. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh my gosh, like, you know, if you complain about it and it's really affecting you and you think it will really bring your confidence up, change. If you want to get that booty enhancement, I think a BBL, get it. If you want to get your titties tucked, get it. If you want to fix that face, get it. You know, if you really want to, do it. But then this is the other side. What is your intention with why you're doing what you're doing? That's why I'm saying it's a double-edged sword. Because if you're changing because of society, you're literally messing yourself up, because trends, they do not last. TikTok, you know, it'll be a trend for 2 days and then it's something completely different. That's what fashion is. Something is in, something is out. If you keep trying to change yourself, you are going to look a hot mess because you're trying to change for yourself. If you're trying to change for a guy, if a guy doesn't want you because of your looks, you don't even need to be with him, because obviously his priorities are not the best. Like, why would I want to be with a guy who didn't even want me to begin with? And then he can see that he can change you, so you just keep changing and changing until you mess yourself up. Stop being on TikTok all the time. Lord Jesus, stop. That's really probably 95% of everyone's problem, is you're on social media too much. You know, we wouldn't make these videos if we weren't, you know, seeing it all the time. You just have to, I'm not saying, you know, be off, you know, go cold turkey, but limit yourself. You can change, you know, make your For You page to what you want it to be. You know, social media, yeah, you know, Instagram, you know, you have the power to block, hide content. You know, if you feel triggered, hide that bitch. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't sit up there and let yourself deal with it. Limit, you know, so you can focus more on yourself. And then another thing that I think you need to understand and help you is there will always be people prettier than you. There will always be people that are smarter, younger, according to society, because beauty is not, I feel like it's not real. I mean, we can agree that flowers or butterflies are beautiful, but this idea of what's beautiful and not, that was just to keep the poor and the peasants. I feel like it all comes down to profit, in my opinion. So you have to come to the conclusion is that you don't have to be with society if you don't want to. Of course, it's not always easy, but understanding that there will be people like that is just kind of the world we live in, and there's not much you can do. Like in class, you know, you might have got 1 grade and then somebody got a higher grade than you, and it's just kind of life, you know. It's just, there will always be someone, you know, doing better, but there'll always be somebody that's doing worse, if you want to see it that way. Just because people are prettier and they do get opportunities doesn't mean you will not be successful. Now, could it mean you may have to work a little bit harder? Yes. But it doesn't mean you can't do anything. I believe God and faith works everything out. Life does work itself out. Even if it seems like it doesn't, it really does. So I just say be patient and don't let your guard down. You will not be pretty to everyone, but someone will think you're pretty. I don't remember that quote, but it's the thing, like, you know, you may not be for every human, but you're meant for some something like that. I would have to find the quote. But that's basically the idea, is that you may not be the person everyone thinks is beautiful, but someone in this world thinks you are the shit and they would die and do anything for you. And that's really all that matters. Quality over quantity. You don't have to have all those eyes on you. It goes back to your intention. If you want that, then hey, that's you. But if you remember that somebody will see you as beautiful no matter what, even if you are having a bad day, they will see the beauty in you. And I think that's the beauty about life, is that there's always somebody for someone. Even if you ain't found it yet, it's happening. Just the matter of just when and where and whatever, you just don't know. And you can learn to hone other skills. Yes, it's like, you know, if you may not be like the prettiest person in the world, you can learn, you could use your other skills, because I've met people that had the best personality and, you know, it made them more attractive. You know, if they would have had a bad personality, ooh, child. But personality can do a lot. If you learn how to do communications, if you write really well, if you learn, I don't know, how to cook, whatever, any talent, hone skills, you get to focus on doing your skills, because once again, no one is paying attention, but you get to learn those skills and be successful in other areas. I did read an article. So there was a group, you know, there was a study shown that people who were confident and, you know, might not have been as attractive, a lot of people started to see them more attractive because they were magnetic. That's why energy's everything. They were magnetized, you know, they were wowed by their personality. It had nothing to do with their looks. So we're at the end of this video, and I want to tell you some things to remember, is that first of all, it is not your fault. Society has pushed us, and also psychologically, like your brain just is like that. And secondly, even if somebody is pretty, do not shame them. Don't get mad at them. Don't make them a villain. They're just pretty. Like, if they got surgery, oh well. Some people are genetically beautiful, and it's okay. Like, I know comparing and jealousy, it's just a normal emotion, but don't let that consume you, because sometimes it's not their fault that they look like that. And also, if they did that, that was their intention. You know, a lot of these people are making a brand. So don't shame nobody for doing that. This is not you hating anybody, because pretty people, you know, I have some very beautiful friends and they're literally the most awesome people in the world. And there's some pretty people that are not that awesome, but either way, who cares? Like, at the end of the day, it's about you and it's about who you are. And another thing is, you know, don't let society get you too down, you know, because, you know, I think we always want to have an answer. We always want to be like, how do I, and sometimes it's okay not to have an answer. You know, I don't know how to be pretty, you know, I don't know how to make it more ethically beautiful, but I know that spreading a message and getting people to at least acknowledge it is a thing. I don't think it's about destroying pretty privilege. I think it's about making it more ethical, the beauty standards to be more ethical, and make it a way where women feel empowered instead of not empowered, you know? So don't shame yourself if you're not. I'm not the beauty standard, like, girl, I am not at all. But I'm living and I'm here. I'm surviving, I'm here, I'm thriving, I'm doing great. And I hopefully gave you ways to just learn how to cope with it a little better. And you can see some of my other videos to learn how to cope with things a little bit better. But I want to tell you that you are an amazing person, and somebody will see you for your beauty and your personality in their unique way. It doesn't have to be the whole town. But that's all I got for you guys. Thank you so much for looking at this video. If you looked at the full video, literally all love to you. I love you. You are beautiful in your own way. I know in your own way sounds so fucking stupid, but you really are. And if not everyone likes you, so what? I know it's harder said than done, but it's like, what can you do? You don't make these people like you. You can only like yourself. If you like yourself, you ain't got nothing to worry about. But yeah, that's all. Goodbye, guys. I love you so much, and I can't wait to see you in my next video. I post again next Monday, so we're gonna be excited, right? And see you later. Bye.